was such a fun conversation. I loved how PJ meshed the world of conservation, animal welfare, and animal caretaking with healthy living. I love that so much. So you can find her online at zoofit.net. You can sign up for that Safari Challenge. She mentions that it begins in April, so make sure you head over there and get signed up for it. You can also find her, she has a Facebook page, she has a YouTube channel, and at Twitter you can find her at earth_fit. Zoos are something that I actually really love talking about because, as I mentioned, when Tiger King hit, I realized I had so much to blog about, and that's actually when I started podcasting as well and doing more YouTube videos, because Tiger King took people by storm, and they are an example of one kind of zoo, which is a really, really terrible zoo. And as I mentioned in this episode, that there's lots of gray areas with zoos, and it's really difficult to tell if some animals should be in zoos, shouldn't be in zoos in general, and then of course it varies with the zoos. So if you want some help navigating that world, I have YouTube videos and podcast episodes and blog posts about how to tell ethical zoos from unethical zoos. It gives you some pointers that you can look for. And I totally agree with PJ that it is challenging, and it varies according to the different institutions. For some zoos, I'm like, they should get rid of their elephants. And when we say get rid of the animals or lose their animals, they're not like, it's not like they're being euthanized. They are being transferred to another zoo, and in the cases when they release elephants, they're transferred to sanctuaries like the Elephant Sanctuary in Tennessee, which is a fantastic sanctuary. So I have a post on navigating sanctuaries as well, which can also be really confusing, and elephant sanctuaries particularly, because there are lots of places that call themselves sanctuaries but are really just tourist attractions where you can take pictures with the animals, and they're not really doing anything good for the elephants. So this is something I'm really, really passionate about. So thank you, PJ, once again. And on these websites, I just want to add that you'll learn about the educational benefits of a zoo as well, and why they're justified conservation-wise. It's a very interesting topic with lots of layers, so I highly suggest that you check it out. Thanks, guys, so much for watching. I am so grateful for each and every single one of you, and I hope you have an amazing day. Bye. Hi, PJ. Welcome to the podcast. I am so excited to chat with you today.
I'm so thrilled to be here too. Thanks for having me.
So you are a zookeeper, correct?
Yes, I was a zookeeper for 15 years, and
wow.
And the year 2015, though, I did trade in my zoo keys and my zoo keys and my radio, and picked up a pair of dumbbells and a jump rope. At least that's my running joke. So I am now 100% of the time a fitness consultant, but I still work very closely, and still always and forever in my heart will be a zookeeper. There's a saying, again, once a zookeeper, you just never, you can take the zookeeper out of the zoo, you can't take the keeper you can't take the zoo out of the keeper.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that you were doing this 100% full time. And we'll get into your program. That's great. Yeah, I say the same thing for a scientist too. Like I'm switched careers, and I'm still doing research, but I'm not leading research projects. And I'm
Right.
sure I'll get to a point where I'm not really actively on research. My data might be contributing and stuff, but yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Like once a scientist, always a scientist. So you're running ZooFit then full time. This is your full-time gig?
Yeah. And again, it was born at the zoo, and it really does hit most, not just zookeepers. Again, my niche audience is animal care professionals, but all scientists, especially like the medical fields, those doing those heavy research, especially in today's age right now. We have people working nonstop to help us fight the pandemic, and that sets in a lot of what we call compassion fatigue and burnout, if you will. And so my program really targets those people to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of the planet a little bit better too, and still being able to share my passion for wildlife, for science, and for conservation in general to the world, and again also especially to zookeepers in general.
Yeah, I love that. And you actually reached out to me after listening to my self-care
Yeah.
episode, because I feel the same way about scientists. And then we also had Jessie from Lonely Conservationist on, and she was talking about the same thing for conservationists, that burnout is huge, and in several ways. So you have us working really hard, that there's just like so many different things to do. And then you also have it, like how you mentioned, compassion fatigue. And for us as scientists or in the conservation world, just handling the conservation crisis can be really difficult. So can you tell us about compassion fatigue and what that means for people who out there don't know?
Yeah, so compassion fatigue is basically the best way I've heard described is when you care too much, and it's again it's a little bit like burnout. It's when, and this is how I discovered or created ZooFit, is when I was a zookeeper, I gave 190% to the animals, and I just didn't have anything left for myself. And so I would go to work and give everything I could to the animals in my care, and I'd come home and crash. I had absolute zero social life. I actually, again, being married, I didn't even have much of a great relationship with my husband even. And then just the general weight of everything I was doing, the heavy work was, was taking its toll on my physical well-being, but also because of all of that, just giving everything to the animals, it was taking a huge toll on my emotional and psychological well-being. And that's basically, again, what compassion fatigue is. It is. I don't know if it's considered a, again, technical, um, diagnosis for like depression, but it is a very serious affliction. And again, most of it will be those who are in a caring fields, to those who, again, social workers, nurses, those in the medical field, and those who care for others. And I do heavily put in, like, especially right now, as I just mentioned, in this age of like, we need to hurry up and get a vaccine, we need to hurry up and take care of this pandemic, that scientists are very, very much in this category of putting so much into the work and not taking care of themselves, that they burn out, they care too much, and it can cause some serious psychological issues, mental issues, and just breaks down our well-being overall.
Yeah, I've definitely heard my vet friend use it. I've known her for, she's close to 20 years now, and she's definitely talked about having compassion fatigue. And it also can affect your work too, because it can make
Yes.
you, like it sounds, you have this, like, I don't know, imagine you have this like jar of compassion or something, and you're constantly giving it away, and then you don't have any left to give. And then if you're dealing with patients, animal patients, or patients, like you need that compassion to refill. Can you talk about when you said you gave 190% to the animals? What does that look like? Like what did your typical day look like, or what were the types of things that you did?
Oh yeah, so being a zookeeper, okay, so I'm talking about how how mentally draining it was, but it was my dream job. I worked with animals all around the country, but when I finally came around, I was working at Woodland Park Zoo in Seattle, and they working with the elephants at that zoo. So we had 3 elephants in our care, coming in, again, checking, make sure everything's okay. Our day pretty much was filled with a lot of cleaning, of cleaning, especially with elephants. But we would clean their outside enclosure, then clean their inside enclosures. We would then also do some training with them. So again, building that relationship, 100% very, very important that we're on point, focused with these animals. They weigh 8,000 pounds, and even in a protected contact setting, which meant that we never went in with the elephants. We stayed outside their enclosure. Even in that kind of setting, they could still be very dangerous animals. So you definitely need to be 100% focused and on point. We would do training sessions with them, taking care of, making sure that they looked okay from the outside, and then working with them to see if there's anything that might cue us, to kind of give us a little sign or signal that they may or may not be doing 100% well. So again, if an elephant normally has no problem raising their foot, and then one day they don't want to, or they don't do it when we'd ask them to, it might trigger to us, might tell us, hey, something might be off. So that's the important part of doing the training, is keeping that relationship and maintain those behaviors with the elephants to help in their care. So again, there's that in itself is mentally draining. And then the rest of the day would be filled with, again, feeding the elephants, but also creating what we would call enrichment. And this is basically any kind of activity or toy or device that we would give the animals to keep them physically and mentally engaged. So again, fancy word for a toy. we would make toys for the elephants, and that could be anything from Christmas trees that were donated to the zoo to big, huge, what we call boomer balls, big plastic balls, or that were nearly indestructible, that the elephants could play with, and we could put food in those items. We could scatter food around, make it a little bit more challenging, a little bit more natural for them to get their food. So coming up with new ideas was both mentally draining, and then implementing those ideas was physically demanding. And so that was basically our day. Was, yeah, we got to play with elephants, but we also had a lot of hard work that went into that as well.
Wow. Yeah. And for enrichment, a lot of times it's meant to mimic their natural foraging behaviors, because elephants in the wild, they're not just going to have, for the most part, a big pail of hay to eat from.
Right.
So you're trying to mimic like how difficult it is to get forage in the wild. Did you come up with the enrichment? Was that something you were able to develop?
I came up with quite a few. Some of my proudest moments as a zookeeper was coming up with different items that, well, either worked or didn't work. But being a zookeeper meant you had to be very resourceful, and I know other scientists definitely understand where I'm coming with here. But many zoos have a very tight budget. The money from those from the visitors, from the ticket gate and the gates, they all go again to the animals, and then any kind of leftover money goes to conservation projects. So that still makes a really tight budget. So if we wanted a brand new, shiny toy for the animals, we either had to come up with the funds somehow or get super creative. And a couple of the ideas that I had was using what we had around us, lots and lots of bamboo. And so sometimes we get these really thick stalks of bamboo. And if you've seen bamboo, they can be segmented. And I would create what I called bamboo popsicles, drill a hole into them, fill them with some juice, or some other treats, and then let the elephants destroy it, trying to get to the treats and the juice inside. Other times I would create. The other thing I got really excited about was just a spark of inspiration came to me, and I thought we could maybe possibly use the boat fenders, and what I was calling the boat. I think I was just calling them buoys at one point, boat bumpers, but I think the technical term are boat fenders. And these are they're the little buoys. They're on the side of boats to keep them from bumping into the dock. So very often when they lost or they start losing the air, they get tossed into landfills. And I found a marina that was willing to donate all these extra boat fenders to the zoo, and it opened up a whole new world for enriching the animals. We could again drill holes. We could put food in the boat fenders. We could throw the boat fenders with these 8,000-pound elephants and let them stomp on them, and they would
Yeah.
take a licking, keep on, kept on ticking, and so they became really, really fun enrichment devices and toys for the elephants in many different capacities, keeping them really, really engaged. So those were two of my favorites. Again, being resourceful, finding free or reusable items so that we can keep these animals engaged. And then the last part of that was also keeping the landfills a little bit better off,
Yeah.
keeping these items out of the landfills for at least a little bit longer to get some use with the animals.
That's so great. And Woodland Park Zoo, you mentioned how any extra money goes to conservation and research. They're actually a partner of ours on eMammal, and they, maybe they didn't do this when you were there, but they have a big camera trapping project around the Seattle area, and they upload all their photos to eMammal. So I get to, and anyone can look at them actually, or at least the best photos. If you go to emammal.org and view photos, you can look at Woodland Park Zoo's favorite photos. They always
awesome.
have a lot of pumas.
I didn't know that they did that. Well,
yeah.
It's not surprising, but yeah, I was not aware that they did that. But that again, the outreaches that zoos can do for conservation is incredible, and it's one of the reasons why I'm such a strong supporter. We don't just support outside conservation projects, but we can inspire the next generation of conservationists. I myself was inspired by going to a zoo, and one of my first memories I have is just 5 years old pointing to the zookeeper and saying, "Mom, that's what I want to do when I grow up."
Oh, wow.
And I'm sure she said something along the lines of "Yes, dear," but to my credit, to her credit for helping me, lift me up and helping me pursue that dream, I was a zookeeper for 15 years.
So I have a question for you. It's maybe a little bit of a controversial question. So I have a blog post all about zoos and trying to navigate between ethical and less ethical zoos, because zoos is a big word, and this was inspired by Tiger King. Did you watch Tiger King?
I have not.
You gotta watch it.
To not have Netflix.
You gotta watch it. But it was basically about a really crappy private owned zoo, and just the word zoo got lumped in with all these other zoos. So I wanted to help people differentiate them. But it is, as an animal lover, difficult because you do want animals to all be free, but at the same time, I understand the educational benefits of zoos. What do you think about, so animals like elephants, where their elephants they're really intelligent, they're really social. Do you think we should start phasing them out of zoos, or do you think that maybe they should only be in some zoos? Like where I'm from in Buffalo, New York, the enclosure is really pretty small. And I know some zoos have even given up their elephants to sanctuaries.
So just on that even last point again, it was a very good, it was just around the same time I was leaving. Woodland Park also closed their elephant program, and it was something I agreed with, I supported, because I will say this for elephants and animals alike, elephants, and again, this gorillas can be classified, and this tigers can be, like, if you're going to showcase this animal, you need to give that animal the best lived life that not even just like possible, just you have to give them the best life. So a lot of zoos, a lot of I will admit that a lot of animal rights activists do focus on these, again, animals like dolphins and elephants, and now there's getting attention towards larger primate, great apes. like gorillas and orangutans. But there's a lot of places that do those exhibits right. One, again, nice little plug here for, but one of them in particular that I've seen firsthand is Oregon Zoo. And Oregon Zoo is, again, this is, in my opinion, what a lot of zoos need to do in this regard, is that they knew they needed to grow the space. And they said, we either need to find the elephants a better home, or we need to hone our focus on what we can and cannot keep so that we can give the elephants better care. So they closed their wolf exhibit. They revamped a couple other exhibits and closed them to give the elephants more space and to give them, again, bigger acreage of outdoor space. And then they revamped their barn. And now it looks like, again, my description of the Oregon Zoo elephant barn is, it's an airplane hangar. It's huge. It's
That's
absolutely
great.
And they have indoor, like, an indoor living room basically where the elephants can play in natural substrate even though it's inside. So again, they did it. They went all in. They are going all in for their animals. And if they're going, and this is a big thing for zoos, because I mentioned most zoos are nonprofit. They're not rolling in money. They can't just wave a wand and say bigger space for elephants and everything works out fine. They have to raise the money for it. They have to plan it out. So while that's great, that Oregon Zoo can do it, not every zoo can provide 6 acres of land and an airplane hangar for the elephants to hang out indoors. However, that doesn't mean that those zoos aren't providing excellent care. I don't know the exact situation of buffalo, but I would have to be able to accurately comment. I would have to see them see them in action. Like, are they providing great enrichment? Even if it's not a huge space, are they getting the elephants to move, to roam, to be a little bit, to be an elephant is what I would actually call it. And that's the same thing with going back to Woodland Park Zoo. They closed the elephant program. I kind of got this impression that we would be able to give the elephants everything that they needed, because we had other projects that were starting to take our focus. And I think the real deciding factor was we lost one of our elephants, and we were having a really hard time getting a third. And again, this is a welfare thing. Elephants are social animals. 2 is a very dangerous number for social animals. So going down from 3 to 2, we came to realize that, okay, we can either we would need to, again, grow our elephant program immensely so that we can attract more elephants to our zoo, for places to send their elephants, which would cost a lot more money. We would have to get rid of a few other animals, and again, expand in a way that we may not be prepared to do. Or we can send our elephants to another program that is, as I just mentioned, committed to the elephants. And so we decided on the latter. Let's let another facility that is 100% able to care for these 2 elephants, let them take them in and let them be social animals in a group setting. So that was where we're at. Again, as I said, I fully agree with either one. So again, going all in and losing a few of the animals that maybe people really love to watch, but giving it to those animals that you are going to take care of. So again, that whether you're talking about elephants, orangutans, or dolphins, you're going 100%. Or let's collaborate with another zoo and let them give them the space and the social interactions that they need. So I when it just so happened that I was already mentally working my way out the door, going,
Hmm.
I have this idea. It's called ZooFit, and I'm struggling to get it out into the world. I'm having this wonderful job, but again, it takes a lot out of you, even when you're fit. It takes a lot out of you. So I had this idea for ZooFit, and the elephants were heading out. I was like, this is a transitional period. Let's see where ZooFit can take me. And I again decided that when the elephants left, I would be leaving the zoo too.
Well, first off, I want to say that actually I worked at Disney's Animal Kingdom for a little bit, and the
Yeah, I saw.
keepers
Yeah,
there loved it because Disney had so much money. They could like
right.
do whatever they wanted for the animals. Like money was never an issue because obviously they're making money from the parks and stuff. Okay, so let's get into ZooFit. I do want to come back to tricks and training for a little bit, but for ZooFit, so this is a fitness program, correct? Like, is it a weight loss program or a fitness program or
It's
well-being
a
program?
well-being wellness program. With I won't even say a focus. I tend to think that I'm pretty diverse in both nutrition and exercise, and then also the key of it is those little healthy habits.
Hmm.
The training habits that we incorporate in our lives. So drinking water, getting enough sleep, and so forth. So yeah, well-being wellness have program.
So did you just feel like yourself, like you were deteriorating and you needed to refresh yourself and then maybe started doing this on your own and then you're like, I have to share this with other people, or could you see this in other people around you? Like how exactly did it come about?
Yeah, this was you just nailed it on the head. It was one of those lightning has struck my brain moments that I was chopping up some enrichment, some snacks, treats for the elephants, and it just hit me like a literally like upside the head. How can I take care of these animals if I'm not taking care of myself? It was just one of those aha moments, and I decided, there you go. I I don't have an excuse. I absolutely need to get into fitness, but I'd done it before. I had done the fad diets. I had done the
Hmm.
going to the gym every day. I'd done weight loss programs, fitness programs. I going to my high school reunion for my wedding, for everything. All these other big events, and they just never stuck. And I think for me, it was having that why that I was never going to really ever reach with fitness. And that was, I want to be a better zookeeper. And you never get to that point. If you're always wanting to be a better zookeeper, you're always going to strive to be better, if that makes sense. So it wasn't going to be an end point. It wasn't going to end. This was going to become a lifestyle for me, where I'm always going to be improving
Hmm.
and getting a little bit better for the animals. This is the other key. It was bigger than myself. It was for the animals. And so realizing that I didn't want it, it wasn't an end game. I wanted to do this a little bit differently. I've done, as I mentioned, done all the programs before. I've forced myself to go to work out. I've guilted myself. Very popular in fitness trends is using, guilt, shame, um, blaming us, berating us for not meeting our goals. And I said, no, that's not how this is not how this is gonna go. That I wanted it to be a positive experience, because this was, as I mentioned, it was going to be a lifelong thing for me. It was going to go till I was no longer, till I no longer here on this earth. So I I decided, if I'm doing this for the animals, let's treat it like I would the animals. And so I started using the principles, what I call the pillars of zookeeping, things I use every day for the animals, I started using for my fitness. So the way we work with the animals, using the animal training methods of positive reinforcement, making it an empowering experience for me. And again, the shaping, what we would call like the breaking up of small behaviors into small pieces rather than gung ho, creating these lifelong habits that run on autopilot basically, because I've been training it for a long time. The other things I started incorporating were enrichment to make it engaging for me. So not just looking at, and this literally the same thing. That means toys and activities. I played games with my fitness, making it fun and varying it a little bit. So not having the same bland salad every single day. Oh, gross. Forcing myself. I'm like, no, if I don't want a salad, let's not do the salad. Let's make something else that's healthy, kind of keeping that variable, but also playing games and working out, making it super fun. I stopped thinking of working out as work, started thinking of it as my recess, as I get to do this rather than I have to do this. But the last one, most powerful for me, and I will admit it didn't take off immediately, but I started seeing these interesting connections between my healthy habits and conservation efforts. So for instance, I think you've talked about palm oil. Yes, we've talked about palm oil, and I've started noticing that, hey, nutritionists are saying, if you want to eat healthy, eliminate processed food, stop eating food with a lot of sugar in it. And then on this opposite side, you have conservationists saying, let's eliminate our plastic waste, sustainable palm oil, and organic local ingredients. And I'm looking at these two people saying very different things, but actually meeting in the middle. They are advocating the same thing. If we eliminate processed foods that have palm oil and wrapped in plastic, we're going to eat a lot healthier, and we're going to have a much better impact on the environment. I also, as a caveat, I do recognize that boycotting palm oil is not the answer. I really do recognize that. However, eliminating it from your diet is kind of like saving two birds with one action. You're doing this for a higher purpose of I am not having palm oil in my food because it's not good for the environment, it's not good for conservation, and I'm eating healthier for me. So it kind of becomes a win-win. And that idea there, that connection to conservation, kind of just changed my entire life and my whole thinking. Just seeing how exercising, riding my bike or walking to a destination rather than driving, yeah, it's a lot healthier for me, and it's a lot healthier for the environment. Bang, here, let's just create a habit where I don't have to drive as often. Even sleeping, there's little teeny tiny habits. Getting enough sleep means shutting off all my electronics at least an hour before I go to bed. Very teeny tiny habit, but again, it creates a ripple effect. So I'm turning off my electronics, turning off my lights an hour before I go to bed. I'm saving energy, I'm saving electricity, and I'm getting better sleep at night, which then when I wake up, I have a lot more willpower, a lot more focus, a lot more energy to do more for myself and for the planet. So all of these little connections started coming together, and I'm becoming not just again a bigger why, helping myself, helping the planet, but becoming what we would call the positive feedback loop. So again, I'm doing something that feels good, and it carries over. It feels good to me, and what we call intrinsic motivation. But then as we going towards the end of that cycle, we find some temptation, or we hit that brick wall. We're like, it's really cold outside, I don't feel like riding my bike. or there's donuts in the break room. Oh my God, what do I do? When we hit that wall, we can then use the conservation as that extra motivation to help us not just climb over the wall, but I've said just break through it, complete that cycle, and we're having a better impact on our health and on the environment. And again, that win-win really just helped propel me in the process of becoming wanting to be a better zookeeper. The other idea is that I was not just talking the talk, I was walking the walk. So telling visitors to reduce their carbon footprint. I wasn't just telling them to do that. I was doing it. I was riding my bike more. I was walking. I was saving my energy. So not just telling people how to behave, but showing them how to do it, and then being that example. Like, hey, yeah, I lost weight. I've gained my energy. I've improved my mood. I don't have compassion fatigue anymore. So those things became more of an example. It shined brighter than me being the most engaging person on the planet and telling you to give up certain aspects, rather than, oh wow, she looks great. She says, again, she looks fantastic. She has got a lot more energy. I want to be more like her. What's she doing? Oh, she cut out plastic food, foods that are wrapped in plastic. I can do that too. And so that was where it became also, again, the second step of ZooFit evolving, was like, oh, I can actually change other people's lives. I don't have to just change my life. I can change other people's lives and make a difference in their lives and make a significant difference in the world. And that's where, again, propelled. I was like, that's it. I got to do this. we got to share this with the rest of the world. And so that's where we are right now.
I love that. And I like you realize a similar connection, that here I was blogging about wildlife and stuff, but I also have always been passionate about health. My mom had cancer when I was young, and then she got it again as liver cancer about 20 years later. So I've always been really passionate about like what I eat and everything. And then, yeah, like you said, I realized it's all connected. And actually one of my most successful blog posts is this random recipe I did for a vegan protein shake. And it's so successful because it's on Pinterest, and Pinterest is really about food. And I'm thinking about making more of them, because if that could get people like, into the wildlife and conservation aspect of them, like by thinking about their bodies and losing weight and stuff, then maybe that's an avenue to reach them. But I agree. And according to research, the one of the two top things that you can do is reduce your carbon impact by giving up your car. So walking and cycling everywhere, and then what you eat as well. So what exactly, if somebody signs up for your program, like what exactly does it look like? Like what are they getting from you?
Well, for me, I have the program I have, it runs right now, it's running a few times a year, and it's called the ZooFit Safari Challenge. So you would get all the books in the ZooFit bundle, and including ZooFit Safari. So this is a 5-week program. I'm not going to guarantee you're going to lose weight during this program, but what I am going to do, again, what training is all about for the animals, I'm going to empower you. I'm going to teach you about different paths, different ways, and help you find your unique way to your fitness, to your well-being. So the big question I would get as a zookeeper was, what's the one thing I need to do to save the world? And that was a big question. My eyes would get more wide. I'm like, I don't know, what can you do? That would be my answer. Is like, well, I mean, if you can give up your car, great, do that. But if that's not feasible, if you live, like, maybe move closer. But if you live 45 miles from work, maybe giving up your car might not be feasible. But what can you do? Maybe you can, again, ride your bike to the grocery store rather than just to work. So that's great. Do that. And so that was one aspect of a very popular question, is what's one thing to do. Then I became a fitness consultant. I thought, okay, well, I don't have to hear that again. Instead, people were asking me, what's the best diet? What's the best exercise? What's the one healthy habit I should do? And once again, my eyes would get kind of wide, like, the one that you will do for the rest of your life is, what can you do? And so the whole idea is, if vegetarian diet the idea of giving up meat for the rest of your life terrifies you and actually fills you with rage, don't do it. Do not, that's not for you. However, there are maybe some components of a vegetarian diet um, that do appeal to you, and maybe you can reduce your meat intake and have a really huge impact on your health and on the planet at the same time, and still do, have your cake and eat it too in that instance. For me, I also have done some research into the ketogenic diet. That's a wonderful, wonderful diet. It's very, very healthy. It's sometimes been called the anti-cancer diet, eliminating sugar from your eating habits completely, just eliminating it. Really, really healthy, but again, it's not for everyone. It's a very difficult one to do. So what I do for the ZooFit Safari and the challenge is, I give you 5 weeks. We're going to go through 5 different eating lifestyles, so 5 different ways that you can eat. We're going to go through 5 different exercise programs, different styles of exercising. We're going to focus on 5 different healthy habits each week. And then each week, we're going to connect those habits, connect those eating lifestyles to conservation in some way. So, 5 weeks, 5 different ideas from each week. Find your way. Find what speaks to you. Is it the paleo diet? Is it strength training? Is it focusing on drinking more water, or is it again eliminating plastic from your diet completely, eliminating it from your life? What is it that works for you, and what is your path? And so that's the general gist, is to, again, empower you, find your way, and help you to make your best impact on your health and on the planet itself. And the next and we always have the next challenge posted up on the website, but I believe it's going to be April 4th, the first Sunday in April is when we'll start the next Safari challenge. So if you sign up for the challenge, you get the ZooFit Safari, the book, and you also have access to live workouts. We'll also do some demos, have some cooking demo videos, and then coaching calls. So again, get online with a group of really supportive people that are all wanting to make the difference in their life, in the world. And we're going to celebrate every step of the way. That's the big thing. We have celebrations where we celebrate our big wins, our little wins, and even those learning opportunities. We're celebrating even those, again, the setbacks, saying, yes, instead of this being a failure, this is a learning opportunity. What can I learn from this? The true scientist mentality, instead of, oh, this didn't support my hypothesis, this didn't go the way I wanted it to, we put on our lab coats and be like, let's see what we can do to either make this work, or let's see why this happened this way. So again, being curious and celebrating every step of the way for that.
That's so great. I really like that. I like how you're tying it into conservation. And you're right, you can do diets differently and still make it sustainable. I grew up vegetarian mostly because of animal welfare, but at like 12 I learned about factory farms and I was like, I don't want to eat meat anymore. But then as I got older, in my 30s, I had health issues. So I finally, mostly energy issues. So I finally started adding meat back into my diet, against my own will. And I actually didn't find that helped, but I've tried like all of the different diets, and I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I understand that different people don't want to give up meat, but you can buy it locally from a farmer. That's what I did. And actually
Yes.
what I found was my problem was caffeine, or not caffeine, sorry, coffee. Um, and that was, I found that through doing an autoimmune diet, which was a really strict diet. And basically
Yes.
all you eat is meat and some vegetables. You don't even eat all the vegetables and fruits. But yeah, you're right. And I think people get really turned off by vegetarian and especially vegan. And you don't have to be a vegan to eat vegan sometimes, or it's more like we're going towards that direction as a whole.
Right. I love that too. Yeah, you don't have to be vegan to enjoy the vegan lifestyle. And that same thing. I am a mostly plant-based eater myself right now. I live in the Pacific Northwest. I'm very, very fortunate. So our great protein for us that if we're wanting to splurge is seafood. Again,
Hmm.
amazing seafood around here. But for the most part, we do both my husband and I do practice a mostly vegetarian, mostly plant-based, but again, supplementing with locally raised, maybe some yogurt once in a while, definitely some fresh backyard egg, eggs from backyard chickens and enjoying that. Again, it's whatever speaks to you. You can make it sustainably sourced. Again, whether that's cutting out meat, I do think that the vegetarian or that is what I would call an 80-20 principle. Again, 80% 80% effect, 80% results from very little effort. So 20% of the effort gets 80% of these results. And again, as far as both your health and the health of the planet, going to a vegetarian or plant-based diet. However, there's lots of other diets. There's lots of other ways to have that impact. Again, eliminating processed food is super healthy for us. People looking into the Mediterranean diet may find it's a lot more feasible for them. They can enjoy some meats here and there, but and maybe even some wine once in a while, having it moderately, but also eliminating that processed food. Again, getting rid of the plastic, getting rid of the palm oil or the conflict palm oil from their diet and having a better impact that way as well. So yeah, everybody's going to be a little bit different. This is my way. What's your way? This is a fun way to
Mhm.
explore it and find out.
And people respond differently to different diets too. Like I did the keto diet and I actually gained weight on it. Like my body did not like it. And for the longest time, everyone was saying low carb, low carb. So I reduced my carbs for such a long time. And finally I was like, screw it. I'm going to start eating carbs again. And I actually lost weight eating carbs. So everyone is different, but I really like that. And you definitely use, tricks or tools or lessons from human psychology, and which obviously is used for animal training as well.
Yeah.
And this stuff works, all these small habit changes. That's really what it's all about. You're totally right on that. So we're getting close to the hour. Is there anything else you wanted to mention before we wrap up our conversation?
Um, we could. There's a couple of things I kind of feel like I glossed over. You
Yeah,
asked a
sure.
question and I would just go on tangents. But um, yeah, so we do use the principles of, again, we call operant conditioning. Again, the little nerdy term there. But it's animal training, and so again, breaking those behaviors into small steps. So rather than going gung ho, I'm going to go to the gym for an hour, 5 days a
Mhm.
week, when you've never worked out in your life. That's not sustainable, and that's not what we would do with the animals. If we're going to train an animal to step onto a scale to get a weight, we don't put the scale in the room and be like, all right, let's go, and expect the animal to immediately sit still on the scale. It takes time. They first have to even get desensitized to the scale, meaning they have to get used to it being in the area. And it's not a big scary monster that's going to eat them. And then gradually we'll put one paw on the scale, and then the entire body. And then if we're again talking about maybe a cat, like a tiger, They go getting their tail to wrap around so it's not hanging off, so we can get an accurate weight on that animal. And each step, and this is the funny thing that we've been really kind of promoting with ZooFit is very often we want to reward the end result. I
Yeah.
will reward myself when I've lost 10 pounds. Whereas trainers and animal trainers, we reinforce every step of the way. So the first time they put that paw on the scale, they get reinforced. They get rewarded for that effort, for doing that step. And so it encourages the animal to keep going. This is the difference between a reward and reinforcement also, is that again, you get your reward for losing the 10 pounds and we stop our efforts. That again, I like to equivalent this to when we if you see a lost cat sign that says reward and you find the cat and you return it, are you going to, and you get that reward, are you going to continue looking for the cat? No, we've stopped looking for the cat. We got the reward. We don't need to look for the cat anymore. Well, if we were reinforced every time the neighbor saw us looking for the cat, even if we didn't find it the first time, if we were reinforced for it, we would keep looking
Mm-hmm.
until that end result. So that's where the difference between ZooFit and most other programs is that we're not focused on this end goal. We're going to celebrate. You want to lose 10 pounds? Great. We'll get there. We will get there. But let's celebrate that 1 pound. Let's celebrate that 5.5 pounds. Let's celebrate that 9.5 pounds. I mean, again, you're almost there, but rather than just going, oh, you haven't lost 10 pounds yet, you've only lost 9.5. How ridiculous is that? We would never do that with the animals. We
Yeah.
would never say, you've only got 3 feet on the scale. We would celebrate each step of the way. So that's a big component for ZooFit is using the animal training methodologies, animal training mentality to just apply it to ourselves, treating ourselves with a lot more respect and having a lot more fun and motivating us to keep going forward.
What kind of rewards do people give themselves? Because before I learned how to celebrate when I went to Unleash the Power within Tony Robbins without food or alcohol, but that's
Yeah.
usually what we go to. And food and alcohol are usually not good for your weight loss. So do people reward themselves with little treats, or is it non-food rewards?
Yeah, that's a whole other class. I'm actually looking to write very hopefully this year. The book is called Positive Reinforcement is Not a Burger After the Gym, and that's it. That pinning that exactly because
Or shopping
one
too. That's another one. And if you don't have a lot of money, you can't
right,
shop.
if you don't have a lot of money, that might be hard. But rather than look, first of all, why would we negate all of that hard work? You just worked out, so you're going to negate all of that hard work with super unhealthy junk food or treats. But second of all, once again, it becomes a reward. It also sets up for a deprivation. Whereas, oh, I didn't work out hard enough, or I didn't do the workout, so now what are you going to starve? And it's my philosophy is if you want a burger, have a burger for the love. Just if you want pizza, have a pizza, but don't let the pizza be the reason you went to the gym.
Yeah.
So we often have as adults, I call it adulting. If we want something, we just go out and get it. But if we were kids, we would ask our parents, "Hey, mom, I want this book," and they'd be like, "Well, earn it." And do this chore or mow the lawn, and you can earn the money to get the book. But then we use food as a reinforcement. So let's flip that. If you want that burger, be an adult, have the burger. But if you want something else, again, like that book, maybe use that as an incentive. So when I first started my fitness program, I was going to a gym, and it wasn't very pleasant at first. I'm not gonna lie. It was uncomfortable. It was hard. There's a sense that it was a little bit of unbearable. So instead of giving up, though, gave myself a little incentive, and every time I went to the gym, I would download a new song on my iPhone. It could have been a song that I heard on the way to work. It could have been a song I heard at the gym. Maybe it was during a fitness class that I attended. Maybe it was just a song that pumped me up. But whatever it was, if I went to the gym, I got to download a song. And eventually, this was, again, in my opinion, a perfect motivator because it was a reward. It was kind of a little incentive to get me to go there. But then that song would be on my playlist, and when I would hear it again, it would trigger in my mind that, yeah, you got this because you were working out. And it would pump me up and get me excited to work out again. And eventually I didn't need to download a song every time I went to the gym. It was just on those days that I didn't maybe feel like it. Like I would look at my watch, like, oh no, I don't want to go to class. Let me just sleep in 10 minutes longer and I'll go to class next time. My brain would trigger and say, yeah, go to class and then you can download a song. And again, it just kind of helped push me along. Eventually I don't need to download songs anymore. I am in this state where Hal Elrod wrote Miracle Morning, and he says we're going from the unbearable to the uncomfortable stage. And by the time I didn't need to download a song at all anymore, I was in the unstoppable, because it didn't matter if I felt like it or not. I wasn't relying on an extrinsic reward. Mm-hmm. I would have that moment where like, oh man, it'd be really great to sleep in an extra 10 minutes. And my brain would be like, it'd be nice, but you're going to get up anyways. and I would, because I knew I was going to feel so much better if I went that direction. So there's I do totally advocate finding something else that motivates you. And again, being we are adults, it can be, hey, I enjoy tea. Maybe I can get a brand new tea at the tea shop, at a fancy tea shop. Mm-hmm. If you like reading books, maybe it's about downloading a new book or ordering a new book or getting a book at the library even. And even just allowing us time. Hey, if I finish this project, I will give myself 20 minutes to just sit in a corner, quiet, and read, which is, again, this is an adulting thing, because if kids want to do that, they just do it. Right. But for us, we can use those as little rewards. I do think if you're really struggling, if you've either hit a plateau or just can't even really get started, trainers might call this a jackpot. Go ahead and trigger it with something big, maybe a dinner out or something that you wouldn't normally equate as a reinforcement, just to kind of get you going, and then bring it back a little bit to, is it a song, downloading a song? Is it giving yourself some time to unwind, relax? Is it a little reward? The other thing is, don't underestimate the power of mini celebrations in the moment, immediately. Again, if you have to wait 3 or 4 hours to get your reward, there's not much of a connection with your brain. But if you make that immediate, and you're like, again, have that celebration, you can fist pump in the air. You literally pat yourself on the back. You can have a little card where you give yourself a star. You're just like, yes, this is me. I'm awesome. I did that. That actually tells your brain that this is something worth craving. This is a behavior worth craving. And that has just as much power. This is, again, science does show that action of patting yourself on the back, giving yourself a gold star, has just as much power as eating M&Ms. Wow. So if that is just as powerful, let's go that route. Go with the mini celebrations to help crave that behavior a little bit more.
I need to do that more. The mini celebrations. I'm not bad at celebrating. I need to do that more.
We can celebrate that right there. you just learned. So again, we turn this around. We just actually even just said, I'm bad at this. And I've said, woohoo, I got something I can work on. I was just telling this to somebody yesterday. I was leading a class and I'm like, yeah, I'm horrible at leg exercises. And I turned that around. I'm like, actually, let me cancel that. I leg exercise is something I can definitely improve on. And I can't wait to practice that. And again, me turning that around turned her opinion around too. So let's do that with you real quickly. You're not bad at it. This is something you get to practice. Woohoo! You're awesome.
I actually did use that psychology today at the gym because I work with a trainer and he gave me this new exercise I've done before and I hate it. It's so hard. Like you have the big exercise ball over your head and you're laying down and you have it and then you put it over your head and your legs come up and you transfer it to your legs.
Yeah.
It's a really good ab workout. Oh my God. But I was hating it today and I thought to myself, this is something I can work on and I'm going to be so excited because my form is really bad now to like show my trainer that my form's going to improve.
Yes.
And I'm going to have rock star abs too.
You are. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming. It was so great talking to you, and I'll put everything that everyone needs to know in the show notes so they can sign up for your ZooFit challenge. Today, I have a really fun interview for you. I interviewed PJ Beaven. She has been a zookeeper for 15 years and somewhat recently had a transition. She actually reached out to me because she heard my episode on self-care for scientists, and she has a very similar story. She's been a zookeeper for a long time, and as she mentions in the interview, she gives 190% of herself to the animals. And what that looks like, we'll talk about. But as a result, she suffered from burnout and compassion fatigue. So she created a program, a wellness program called ZooFit to help people who struggled with the same issues that she did. And it's really cool how she created this program because it's not just about fitness and health, it's about conservation as well and about how your food and movement choices, like choosing a car or walking, affect not only your waistline, but also the planet. And the cool thing about this program is that she uses the same types of methods that she used to train animals to train yourself. So it's based off of these like micro little habit switches that are really important in changing your whole life. It is such a cool program. So from this interview, we'll talk a lot about what zookeeping was like for her, how she maintains self-care, how she trains the animals, and then how she trains you. In this episode, we're going to talk about training animals. And I just want to mention before we get started that this is not training animals for tricks. It's not circuses, which I am against, and it's not performance style training. What this training is for medical purposes. So animals in zoos, they have to be checked and to make sure that they're well. So she talks about like asking an elephant to lift up their leg, or when I worked at Animal Kingdom, they presented ears so we could get a blood sample from them. So you do have to train the animals, and this is better for the animals because otherwise they would have to undergo anesthesia all the time, which is not good for them. So when we're talking about training here, we are not talking about circus tricks. We're not talking about anything unnatural that animals do. We're talking about training them to do something like go on a scale or present a paw or maybe lift their arm up so the vet can look all over their body. I want to make that really clear because I'm absolutely against the other type of training. So let's get into it and talk with PJ about what it is like to be a zookeeper and how she trained herself to becoming ZooFit.